All right, congratulations and welcome to day 7. You've made it through the first week. You are doing absolutely amazing. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're noticing so many things, changing things, feeling empowered, changing your language, realizing how much power you have, how you speak to yourself, what you decide is possible for you, how you speak out loud, and how you view different situations and speak about them. And today, we're going to talk all about dealing with others, because you may have already experienced this. You've got your positive self-talk going. You've got your statements of truth around your house. You are living it, being it, speaking it. You're saying, I can. You're saying, thank you instead of sorry. You're saying, I have chosen to. I'm making time for this. Everything's good. And then a friend comes along and goes, who do you think you are? No. Or a family member goes, oh, that's not true. You've always been a mess. You're this or you're that. And it feels like a lot. So today is all about dealing with others, and dealing with others particularly in those situations where we find ourselves in conversations with people that are less supportive, or, are maybe normalizing those things. So there's another situation, you've started to tell yourself, started to make familiar, make normal to yourself the language of I can. I am going to build this business. I'm going to be a success. I'm going to work out and lose weight. I'm going to have a successful relationship. And then you're suddenly around your friend and they go, oh, you can't do that. You've always been this way. And suddenly you're like, oh, that's a clue. That's where Nancy got it from. And of course, they didn't just get it from your friend, but you'll start to notice as you make that voice in your head that you've labeled now unfamiliar, that Nancy, that Kyle, that bad roommate in your head, you're going to start noticing people in your life that speak their language and not your language. And what you do with that information in terms of your friendships and relationships is completely up to you. That is something that I could never tell you. I would never tell someone. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to give you the tools to deal with those people and to deal with those situations. So the first thing I'm going to say is our goal should always be to not be drawn into an argument. Being drawn into particularly heated arguments don't serve anyone. So the worst thing you want to do is say, oh, you're the problem. I've been trying to better myself for all these years and it's because of you. Mom, you're the one that taught me this. It's just going to lead to a fight. People are going to get defensive. Then they're going to get emotionally charged. Then you might get emotionally charged. It doesn't help anybody else. What you want to do, just like you've been observing yourself, is now you want to start to observe others. We want information first, and then we can decide what to do with it. So the easiest thing is to just say nothing, but acknowledge it in your own head. So if someone says, no one's ever going to be able to afford a house, just saying silently in your own mind, I'm not letting that in. I am buying a house. If they say, all relationships are terrible, saying in your head, I'm not letting that in. I am committed to finding an amazing relationship. Whatever it is, just like you did with your negative critic and then your true self, you do the same. The simplest thing, the most low conflict thing, is to do the same thing in situations with other people. Is just but then in your own head correct it. And you can also imagine a shield. I know it sounds a little bit out there, but it really helps. I particularly find myself in situations, I'm always correcting things in my head, like I just said, but when I find myself, if someone's just dumping negativity or just dumping limiting beliefs, then I imagine my shield is blue. I imagine a shield around myself, and it's like a visual and an acknowledgement of I'm not letting that in. And that will help you to not, because basically what you would want to acknowledge is I'm not normalizing this to myself again. Because if you don't do anything and if you don't set an intention, you can do all this work, and then if you just go back around people that are like that, we'll just normalize it to you again. So many different people in the success and personal development world will say, you're a sum of the 5 people that you spend your time with. The 5 people you're around the most is who you become. And that's because their thoughts, feelings, beliefs is what you surround yourself with, and it's what you normalize to yourself. So now that we've done this work, starting to make that limitation, that negativity, unfamiliar, we don't want to let it back in from people around us. The second thing you can do is what I call a gentle reframe. So if we say to people, you know, oh, that's really negative, and that kind of negative self-talk will ruin your life, and I'm doing this course, and and Michael said, that tends to not be well received by people. So what you can do instead is, just like the tool that you've been working on reframing with yourself, you can just reframe that gently out loud with others. And this is how when I work with moms, this is how I get the moms to get their family's language to change. It never works to sit them all down and be like, hey, we're going to start speaking differently. The only thing that works, or the thing that works the best, is this gentle reframing. And so what you do is you just say the reframe out loud to the person. So, you know, if they're like, this rain is killing me, you say, this rain is a minor inconvenience, and I don't even think that it will last that long. Oh, this traffic is the worst thing ever. Oh, this traffic is a bit of a nuisance, but hey, we have this extra time to hang out and talk. You know, oh, I hate our job. It's so poorly run. Nothing ever gets done. You know, not everything here is perfect, but at least we see it. And if we can see what's wrong, then we can see what's right. And maybe we should talk about that and find a solution and take it to our manager. Maybe that's the way for us to get promoted. You know, just gently reframing things. And you know, people, especially with the simple things like when someone's saying it's a nightmare or the weather or whatever, people will laugh at that, because you don't have to explain to them how negative what they said was and how it's affecting them. Because when you do the reframe, it immediately becomes obvious, you know? So just by speaking that gentle reframe out loud, that will often shift the energy, the dynamic of a whole situation. Now, what we just talked about works with a friend or someone neutral, or someone who maybe is a bit negative but don't realize it, or someone who does want the best for you and doesn't realize, you know, how their narrative, how their language is affecting you. But what about someone who is very negative, who's kind of hostile, or intentionally, you know, trying to be hurtful? Well, I first want to say that disengaging from an interaction is always an incredibly powerful thing. And I always will choose to disengage before engaging in hostility or negativity. Even if you're physically in a space with someone, like a car, even just stating, you know, I'm not, you know, we've talked about this, I don't want to get upset, I'm just going to continue to, I'm not going to engage, I don't want to talk about this further, can be a really powerful thing. But if you are in that interaction, what are some things you can do? Well, say someone says to you something like, I don't know, what made you think that you're going to be a millionaire? Who are you? You're never going to have that. Well, one of the best things that you can do is just pause. And this is a great time to use your Jedi mind powers that we've been working on, your mindfulness. So to just take a moment and just smile at them. You can look at their forehead. You don't have to look in their eyes. Look at their forehead. Smile, pause. And this is a great time to regulate your nervous system, because if there's some hostility coming at you, you know, if they're doing something, if they're trying to push your buttons, go. I know you haven't done a whole bunch of the mindfulness exercises by now, but you're going to get even better at this. Feel your feet on the floor. Connect to your breath. Become super aware of what you're seeing. Maybe fixate on their iris or the texture of their skin. And just smile and just pause. Because pausing makes people reflect on what they've said. And you know, no happy person wakes up and goes, oh, I'm so happy with my life, I'm going to make this person feel miserable today. I have the best life ever, I'm so fulfilled, I'm going to torment this person today. Only negative, unhappy, critical people say things like that, do things like that. And remember, the way we shifted from our internal voice to the way we speak out loud, and what a reflection of both of each other that was. Someone that's speaking like that to other people is also speaking like that to themselves. And so when we pause and we just smile, and you can even nod and be like, it makes people reflect, and it makes them feel seen in a transparent way. And people will often retract what they just said, you know, especially if someone says something quite cruel to you, just pause. They often will go, oh, I didn't really mean that, and kind of backtrack. Or, they might, oh, you're just going to not say anything ever. And, that's a great time maybe to disengage or to go to the next step. The second step is to ask, what is your intention with sharing that? And sometimes people actually do have a good intention and their communication skills are just so convoluted that they say everything in a negative way. My mom, for the longest time, would be like, oh, honey, make sure you don't miss your flight tomorrow. And it would just frustrate me so much. I finally says, Mom, what is your intention? And she'd be like, well, I just don't want you to miss your flight. And I was like, okay, I understand that. Thank you for trying to help me. I'm a 35-year-old man. I've lived out of home since I was 15, 16 years old. I have traveled all over the world. I've built multiple businesses. I've had multiple relationships. I'm incredibly independent and successful. When you nag me like a mother to, I should say when you remind me like a mother to not miss my flight, it feels incredibly diminishing. I feel incredibly diminished. Then she goes, oh, my intention was just to help you, and then you can talk about that and you can express how it makes you feel. Someone that's saying, I don't know who you think you are. You're never going to be that successful. Really? What is your intention with saying that to me? What is your intention with sharing that? And they might go, well, I just don't want you to be disappointed. And then, see, that's something you can work with. You go, okay, well, I appreciate your concern, but, I've chosen to do this. I'm learning a lot about the mind and my focus and mindset, and I've decided to make this a goal. And, when you kind of are discouraging or tell me that I can't, it feels disempowering and diminishing to me. And I don't like that. And then people will go, oh, and so saying, what is your intention? And then stating, I feel, not you make me feel, or it made me feel, or it makes me feel, because you're not giving other things the power to make you feel a certain way. Remember, power of language. And it's also not you made me feel, or you did this, or you, because we don't want to be accusatory. It's a statement. This leads me to feel. This happens, I feel. When you say, I feel, not you make me feel, not it makes me feel, I feel. Getting into that nuance in language, how we love the nuance in language. But so taking those 3 steps, so if you go into the interaction with someone saying, taking the pause first and just seeing how they respond, and then saying, what is your intention? And then maybe saying, I feel. And if that person really, truly is malicious intention to you, you can just say, I'm not letting that in, or thanks for sharing that, and just move on. And again, if someone has truly malicious intention, you want to limit that interaction as much as possible. If it's someone in the family, someone at work, you might have to feel that, get that energy shield up, avoid that interaction. Not avoiding it by taking yourself out of a space, but just avoid it by not engaging, not letting people have the power to rile you up, to upset you. So those are some ways that we can deal with others. But overall, the more confident person in any situation will always influence the other. We have things called mirror neurons, which means that we're always kind of like mirroring each other's energy, intent, body language, context, shifts in nonverbal communication. And so if you're the more conscious person, if you're the more aware person and saying, I'm intentionally staying in this positive space, I'm intentionally looking for the good, then you can influence others to do the same. And I had someone that I used to see who was an esthetician, and when I started doing this work myself, I started to realize that she was incredibly negative, and that I actually left a lot of those interactions feeling really bad about myself, feeling really negative. And so when I was kind of still, because I love experimenting and testing things out, and so when I was kind of working all of this out myself, I went there with the intention. I was like, I am going to use my intention and consciously stay up in that more positive space, that more positive language, and see if I can bring her there too. And so every shoot, she would, you know, veer off into like, oh, and then this time I'm like, oh, but like, you know, didn't you donate money from that event? Like, what motivated you to do that? Well, I really like to give back. But, oh, you know, it's a pain because, like, this person I'm on co-counsel with doesn't understand. I was like, but that must feel so fulfilling to you to give money to a charity like that. It does, it does. And we got this letter and it's like, da-da-da-da. That's amazing. What motivated you to do that? Well, you know, I think that it's important that this and that. And I was in this situation and someone gave money to me. But you know, there's not enough good. It's like, oh, but how did that make you feel when someone gave you that? You know, and I just, every time she'd veer into the negative, I just bring it back to, I do the gentle reframe for her and bring it back to the positive. And we ended up having this wonderful conversation talking about all these good things, all these wonderful things. And her energy just came up like this. And at the end, she gave me a hug, which she never did. And she was like, it's so good to see you today. And her energy was so bubbly, but it was because I chose. I was the more confident, the more intentional one, the more grounded into my true self. I said, no, I'm not going to get taken down to her level where the way she's talking about things, looking at things, I'm going to maintain this perspective and I'm going to be so grounded that I can shift around. And so this is why, you know, we started with our inner world, because as our inner world starts to change and we start to change the way we speak out loud, we can become so powerful, so grounded, so tuned into our energy that we can actually shift the energy of those around us. And, you know, that's such a powerful thing because people remember the way you make them feel. And if you become someone who makes people feel good, you're going to be someone that people want to have around at work, in a personal life, in friendships, and even in a relationship. So, you know, by changing our language, changing our perception and reframing things, we've actually given ourselves this tremendous power to impact others as well. And don't worry, I know we're just a weekend. If you're like, I'm totally not ready to, you know, fully be shifting other people's energies, that's okay. It's a journey. But everything you learned this week, we're just going to take deeper, we're going to reinforce, and we're going to keep working on. And of course, that step by step, one brick at a time, day by day, you're going to build that in and normalize this to yourself. Normalize this as the way you operate, your state of being. It's going to make you feel so empowered. I'm sure it already is, and so good. You're doing absolutely amazing. Congratulations on making it through the next week, and I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.